By their very nature, the places we go fishing are magnets for birds, insects, amphibians, mammals, and of course, the fish themselves. A huge variety of wildlife depends on this beautiful water environment and the diversity of habitats it provides. Enjoying our sport in these amazing places is absolutely key to the joy of fishing.
Although I'm so passionate about fishing and the fish, but we still care about everything else around it. And you need everything around it. You can't just have fishing and nothing else.
The Colne Valley is a stunning wetland ecosystem. 200 kilometres of river and canals, plus over 60 lakes full of biodiversity and great fishing.
You can't take anglers out of the Colne Valley, it just doesn't make sense without them.
Like many of our waterways, the Colne Valley has been suffering the consequences of human impact, pollution, biodiversity loss and invasive species. That's not good for fishing, and it's not good for other species either. As a result of habitat loss and invasive species, the area has seen a reduction of refuge available for fish from predators, and populations of species such as the water vole have diminished. When it comes to habitat, what's good for fish is also good for other wildlife such as water voles. So although the underlying reason to protect these wetland ecosystems was different, the desire to manage, maintain and promote this biodiversity was actually common ground here in the Colne Valley for the Wildlife Trust and the angling groups. The angling groups here in the Colne Valley have been working with you guys at the Wildlife Trust for a little while now. That might seem like an unlikely partnership, or is that an entirely misinformed opinion?
No, yeah, I guess so. I mean, anglers and conservationists haven't always rubbed along in the best way. But I think what we've tried to focus on in this project in the Colne Valley Regional Park is what the conservationists and the anglers have in common, because many anglers tell me that they enjoy watching wildlife and just being in nature and quiet green spaces like we are today, as much as the actual fishing experience. Yeah. And bang, there you go, we've got something in common. We've started on that basis and then looked at what we can achieve together to make those green spaces even better.
So in reality, it's the perfect partnership, really.
Yes, yeah, you could say that. Kingfisher, kingfisher, 2 kingfishers. Amazing. My name is Lydia Ennis. I'm the Colne Valley Rivers and Wetlands Officer for Herts Middlesex Wildlife Trust, and we are here in Savy's Pool in Rickmansworth, which is run by West Hampstead Angling Society, and we are here to talk about our angling and nature conservation project. We started working with angling clubs in the Colne Valley about 2 years ago as a joint venture to help restore wetland wildlife across the Colne Valley. Every piece of water in the Colne Valley, every lake, every stretch of river is managed and looked after and fished by an angling club. So from our perspective as a wildlife trust, if we want to go out into the wider landscape and help restore nature, we have to work with angling clubs. Angling clubs are a key ally for us.
My name is Tony Booker. I'm chairman of the Colne Valley Fisheries Consultative and have been involved in running the project, but this particular club I've been involved with for most of my adult life. I was brought up into fishing as a child, and it's not just about the fishing, it's about being out in the environment, wildlife, and everything that goes with it. The Colne Valley Fisheries Consultative were actively engaging with the Herts Middlesex Wildlife Trust, and it was actually because of that relationship that there was a perfect opportunity afforded to us to set up and run this project.
The central tenet of the whole project has been the Angling and Nature Conservation course. It was set up in recognition of the fact that a lot of fishery managers in angling clubs, they are volunteers in the same way that we have volunteers at the Wildlife Trust, and they are basically being asked to look after livestock. It might be underwater, but it's still livestock, very often in their spare time, after work, at weekends, and they're being asked to do all of this without, basically very little training or what they've picked up over the years. So we had the traditional fisheries management modules dealing with stocking and fish biology, fish disease, but then we also had a whole day on wetland ecology, which is essentially how to manage wetland habitats to get the most out of them for nature. And the key throughout all of this project has just been this recognition that if you have healthy habitats, healthy invertebrate communities, healthy plants, you will have a healthy fish stock and therefore happy anglers, hopefully.
The objectives for us as an angling community was to be able to start looking at the bigger picture and to deliver what we were doing on a localised basis, on a landscape scale, and create continuity down through the valley. So it became important that we were not only engaging with the Wildlife Trust, but the angling clubs themselves started to better engage with each other.
We're guardians of the lakes that we have. You know, it's up to us to look after those little pockets of the environment, so just to make sure it's good for fishing, for the anglers to take on after us, and also for the nature and the wildlife that we share the environment with. We recognised that we had a deficit in skills, so the opportunity to go on the course enabled us to learn a lot, and also a qualification at the end, a recognised qualification for those that have taken the course. Very useful. We've used our skills with the tree work we've done. We've opened up sunlight to the river, which has allowed the environment to flourish, bring life into the river. We've also built some groins to sort of remove some of the sediment. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, with the help from the Herts Middlesex Wildlife Trust, we're going to be planting some coir matting that's been pre-planted with irises and sedge, which is going to be great for this year's young fry, and also for the water voles and the water vole project. It's been said by some of our senior members that water voles haven't been seen on our fishery for 30 years, which is really quite a sad indictment of the way that, you know, people look after the environment. With the work that we've done this year, we've had our first sighting of water voles, which is just really exciting. I haven't seen one yet, I'm hoping to see one soon, but definitely the benefits are there for both the environment and for the fishing.
What are we looking at here? This looks like the perfect habitat for something. What is it?
The club here used to have water voles, but only the older members can actually remember seeing them at the lake. They've disappeared in recent years, and we wrote a management plan with this club as part of the project. And one of the objectives in the management plan was to see water voles back here again, so that anglers could enjoy watching them from the other bank when they were fishing. So what we're looking at here is work party's efforts at working on recreating the spits here. So rebuilding them up and then putting sedges and rushes and reeds back to restore a lush marginal fringe.
All of this habitat being perfect for water voles, I imagine with all the amount of work it's put in, it's got to be multi-purpose. It was a lot of effort.
Yeah, we weren't just going to sell it to them on the basis of the water voles. It comes back to this: if you manage your fishery for nature, then you are managing it as well for your fish in the best way. Water quality is often a concern for fisheries, and all these marginal plants, the sedges, the irises, they will be helping to keep the balance of water quality, because they help to take nutrients out of the water, and often too much nutrient input is a problem on fisheries. And secondly, these are great features for fish to congregate around, and that's something that the club have seen since creating these spits, and say that they're not finished, they're clearly not finished, but they've actually seen the fish flocking to them and congregating around them. So hopefully in the future there'll be lovely features to fish to, as well as places to watch water voles. Water voles are a priority species for us here at Herts and Middlesex and throughout the Colne Valley. They are one of the UK's most threatened mammals, and anglers are one of the water voles' key allies when they're trying to recover their populations. One of the main threats to water voles at the moment is habitat loss, and so the work that angling clubs do on rivers and lakes, that small scale habitat management, for want of a better word, that all creates the lush marginal vegetation that water voles so rely on to survive. Of the 3 water vole populations we have in the Colne Valley, one of those is on a nature reserve, but the other 2 are on active managed fisheries.
The reason I wanted to be involved with the project was to extend my knowledge, really. If we can reassure ourselves that what we are doing is benefiting not just the fishing side of it, but the wildlife and everything, all the surrounding, I think that's a brilliant thing.
Fishing clubs are incredibly lucky that we have these habitats to look after. They're incredibly delicate. By removing trees, we get better wind down the lake, better oxygen, less leaves going in the lake, less deoxygenation, less silt. So they like us cutting down trees because it helps the water voles. We like cutting down the trees because it helps the fishing. But at the end of the day, it improves both the nature and the fishing.
The success of the project has been about that collaboration between angling clubs and the wildlife trusts. Everybody got it. That's really what it comes down to now, is people realise that there's a bigger picture and they want to buy into that.
The project's only been running for a couple of years, but you can already see change happening on these fisheries as a result of the training that these guys have received.
For me personally, I think that relationship that is now built between the Wildlife Trust and the angling clubs generally is priceless. So consequently, we've got some much better managed fisheries, and we've now got even better managed wildlife areas and wildlife refuges.
It has genuinely been a joy and a privilege to work with the angling community. They are so proactive. You say, oh, wouldn't it be nice to get this done? one day, and then you expect it to happen in a couple of weeks. But no, they ring you the next day and it's done. And I think it's that proactive, that can-do attitude has been a breath of fresh air.